everyone. Welcome. This is part 4 of our 4-part webinar series. My name is Jasmine. I work out of the Triton Advising Center, which is located in the Student Center on campus, part of the EMSS division. Again, my name is Jasmine. I want to welcome you all here. We have a pretty exciting presentation from the Bank of Guam. We're really excited that they were able to prepare a presentation about money management. They're going to give us some financial tips, guys. I'm so excited. And again, they are willing to give us their time. Really quickly, before we head to Bank of Guam's presentation, I see some of you guys were in the other 3 parts of our webinar series, and I just wanted, on behalf of all of us at UOG, just want to thank you guys for your time. I know it's not, it's a big ask to ask you guys for an hour of your time. Some of you guys have given us 4 hours of your time at this point, and we just want to thank you so much for attending these webinars and continuing to show up. We really appreciate it, and we know already that you guys are students who are proactive because you signed up for these webinars, and we really hope that you gain something out of this. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. We have Keanu here, we have Mr. Harold here, we have Margarita here. They're all from Bank of Guam. They're our local financial experts, and I'm really looking forward to their presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to them. Thank you again, everybody, for being here.
So yes, half a day, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's financial empowerment session. Before we begin, I want to say thank you to the UOG team as well for reaching out and inviting us to share with you, about how all together we can all learn and practice these smart spending and savings habits that reflect good financial values in our college careers. Kudos for putting together this entire college affordability series, because I think it's also a very worthwhile cause, because money and the way we handle it sometimes is really what can make or break the trajectory of someone's path, right? And thank you for the introduction. We all come from a variety of different backgrounds, and I'm sure we can all provide different perspectives today. But my name is Keanu. I'm a Communications and Corporate Social Responsibility Officer at the Bank of Guam, and I'm excited to be with you all today. I graduated from the university in 2020, so right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm joined by Margarita and Harold. Mark, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Margarita, or you can refer to me as Marge. I am a Communications and CSR Associate, and I just graduated from the University of Guam in December. So a lot of the time throughout the presentation, Kiana and I will be sharing some very relatable situations that we may all have been in. And we're also joined here by Mr. Harold Field.
Hi, I'm Harold Field. I've been with the bank a little over 25 years. So I did not graduate from UOG. At the time, I was thinking about going to college. It was known as the College of Guam before it became a university. So nice to be here. Hope I can be of help to all you folks.
Thanks, Harold and Marge. So yes, we all come from a variety of different backgrounds, and we hope we can offer you just a little bit of nuggets of knowledge today. So throughout this presentation, please feel free to jump in and join in the conversation. Turn on your camera if you're comfortable, or even go ahead and use the chat function, and we'll be more than happy to address your questions. And today we are going to be using a PowerPoint as a guide, but we don't want that to intimidate you or bore you, but we really just want to use it as a tool to help facilitate the conversation. Okay, so today, the main focus of today's session is smart spending, your value and finances, in which we'll really be delving into the topic of culture and the relationship it has with the way we view our money and the way we handle it as well. And Some of the financial topics that we covered today may seem familiar, and it may seem very familiar for some of you because we have been having financial empowerment sessions with several different groups at UOG. So if this is something we've taught to you before, if you've learned something before and incorporate it in your life, you could feel free to share. And the reason why we're covering topics that might seem familiar is because we understand that not everyone is going to be on the same level or have access to the same amount of resources when it comes to understanding money. Because I know I'm still learning along the way, and we just want everyone to be on the same page. And most of the times we do this, it's a series of workshops that we offer, starting with a general topic like this, and then we delve more specifically into things like credit, car loans, and more. But we'll just really cover the basics for now. And on the topic of money management, it's very much an intergenerational affair, right? You have yourself, you have your siblings, and then from there on, you have your parents, your children, your guardian, your grandparents, and sometimes even maybe your great grandparents. And yeah, we love for you to take all these lessons and share it in the conversations with your family. But the main objectives of today's workshop is to initiate important conversations about personal finance, to pass on these financial lessons eventually, right, to the youth, and to finally work around generational differences in financial values. And a lot of these lessons can be taken as financial values, which are outlined here, and we'll be covering these topics essentially in today's workshop. But right off the bat, we'll be starting off with a money tip. And you'll see these throughout the presentation, so feel free to take notes whenever you see them. But the first money tip, is that your culture and values can support smart spending and savings habits. And simply put, this means that whatever cultural background you may come from, whether Chamorro, Pohnpeian, Chiquis, Filipino, or Marshallese, we all have habits and attitudes that are passed down from our parents and others in our family, right? For example, in my family, education is relatively, or higher education to be more specific, is a relatively new avenue that has been explored in my family, right? So having that expectation put onto me, I was a bit more motivated to strive for and save for the goal and apply for whatever scholarships that may be. But alongside smart, good habits that can be passed down from the family is the vice versa, which are bad habits can also be passed down. And I use bad very loosely, but of course it's all adjective. Marge, did you have anything to add to this?
Just one thing that I wanted to share before we start. Obviously, as you can see, Keanu, Harold, and I are working from home. So we do apologize for any background characters that appear or noises that you hear. We're just working from home right now just to mitigate our risk to COVID.
Yes, thank you, Marge. Oh, do you hear the dog in the background? Is that why? I'm sorry for that. But anyways, to start off, we do have a question to ask all of you is, can someone or anyone give an example from your life how family traditions or values supported smart spending and savings habits? So feel free to type that in the chat. And while you all type that down, maybe Marge and Harold can share some of their lessons that they learned in their families.
Oh, okay. Well, since I'm older, I have kids, and my kids are all have gone off to college and all that. But when they were young, I used to encourage them to save their money when they got birthday money, confirmation money, and Christmas money. And I always encourage them to save it, and more often than not, have them put it in a savings account at the bank.
Thanks, Harold. I think that's really a good thing to keep in mind. How about you, Marge? So feel free to chat type in the chat, everyone.
Yes, please. We love to hear examples from your own personal lives. But one thing that I can share that I was passed down from my parents is that during graduation season or birthdays or confirmation when I receive money from like my family, because that's how we give our support and love, right? In the islands, I had to write down a list of that of all the people that gave gave me a gift and then the value of that gift. That way we can return that when it's their time, that when their time comes around, which I think is a great incorporation of culture, like reciprocity, and how that plays into our spending habits.
Thank you, Marge. So we do have some responses. Jasmine shared, oh, same. I was also encouraged to save any birthday money. I wish I could relate to that. In my house, the birthday money was essentially what was going to be used to cover the cost of the party. So it was you're just there for the fun, really. And then Justin shared, save your money, be careful where you spend it, and only buy it when necessary. That's a great lesson, Justin. And we're actually going to be covering that in today's topic, really differentiating between, needs and wants. So anyone else want to share? No? Okay. There'll be more opportunities. Or Mark, did you want to call on anyone, or what do you
No,
think?
maybe their time will come. I think we'll have more spaces where they can kind of share
Okay,
their own.
sounds good. All right. So those are all good examples. And when we look at, some of those lessons in our family really closely, we will see that they can all fit into an umbrella of financial values. And those categories are, your values, beliefs, and traditions that might contribute to how you handle your money, including honesty and good behavior, good health habits, financial security and self-sufficiency, even good study habits, family heritage and ancestry, religious customs and observances like birthdays and christenings, and even funerals, and even community volunteering and fundraising, right? And I think that's a very prominent thing wherever you go, whether that be a GoFundMe or a meal fundraiser, right? That all has to do with money. Okay. Next is identifying your relationship with money. And I know this is going to sound very, obvious, a little too obvious, but when we talk about finances and money management, it all comes down to what is money, right? And I know that sounds very basic, but in its purest form, right? Money is what we use to get the world rolling, but sometimes it can even be hard to wrap our head around because there's so many different forms of money that are constantly emerging, right? There's things like PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, and all those other types of cryptocurrencies that are constantly popping up. And it's hard to keep up with all of that. But in addition, what clouds our definition of money is our feelings and emotions regarding money, and that can range from great satisfaction in how it supports our general lifestyle to downright frustration when we don't have enough and the bills just keep on piling and they get in the way of achieving our dreams and goals. And especially as students, right, we all come from a variety of different backgrounds. Some of us may be parents, some of us may be supporting our younger siblings, right? And that puts a lot of pressure on someone. And we hope in today's presentation will help to remove the mental barriers that come along with those. Mara, did you have anything to add on to this?
Yeah, I think you're kind of trying to say that the conversation about money shouldn't be something that is taboo. I know in the islands, in our islander culture, and I've seen it throughout all of Oceania, talking about money is a bit taboo, where we kind of shy away from the conversation, or we slip $5 into someone's pocket because we don't want everyone else seeing it. And we're here to tell you that that culture, that shame culture, or that, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe like taboo culture surrounding the conversation of money kind of hinders your relationship to, or hinders your building of a good relationship with money and understanding your finances.
Thanks, Marge. I think that's a great point, and I think we have our own personal experience with, like for example, when Marge and I go to lunch, and one of us
All
mostly
right.
is like ashamed, right? I just slip her money in the car, and I won't tell her until I'm home, and she won't say anything anymore, right? But that's a great example of the stigma surrounding money. So thank you for that. And next is really asking yourselves in the topic of identifying your relationship with money. It's important to ask yourself, how have you used your money in the past and how do you intend to use that in the future, right? And we're not necessarily telling you to type this down in the comments, but just really ask yourself, how have you misused your money, or how have you lost out on all these different opportunities to make money, right? For example, maybe you took someone's financial advice, even if your gut, right? You were like you felt uneasy about following that advice, and you ended up with undesirable consequences. And one example I can think of is the concept of co-signing. I think in our society, you might have friends and family who might reach out to you because you are budding. Some of you may be like budding adults, right? And you're gonna have that clean credit slate, and that's what's going to help them get that, I don't know, their Jeep. And you might feel pressured, like they'll say things like, oh, by co-signing you're going to be able to build your credit. But if you're co-signing and you're not responsible for that payment, if the primary vehicle owner doesn't make a payment, that's going to hurt your credit score. So that's just one example of something you might want to avoid in the future, right? But of course, these are all your decisions to make. And also, we just want to share that, at least acknowledging that you may not have always made the right decision surrounding your money is perfectly healthy. No one is 100% perfect when it comes to money. There's always going to be a time when you make an impulse decision to buy something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, nice. So we're going to delve into our needs and our wants. And like Keanu mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the things that we're going to be going over, like our needs and our wants, it seems so obvious to us, right? But when we look at at our credit card statement or at our checking statement, right, online, we're like 50% of the time I find myself asking, why did I buy that? Or why did I volunteer to pay for the whole friend group's meal? Because now, like, to be frank, I'm broke. Like, I have no money now. And it's not like and the next time that comes around, my friends may or may not be like, hey, I'll treat you this time. But when it comes to identifying our needs versus our wants, one thing that we really need to be aware of is whether or not the needs that we have right now and the wants that we have right now need financial assistance. Like, how do we pay for our needs? How much of our check do our bills take up? And then how do we pay for our wants? How much of our check does that take up as well? And it's important that you note that you need to distinguish between what you actually need in the long run and what you want. But of course, it's important to make specific and realistic plans to help provide like the financial assistance or guidance that you need when it comes to attaining your needs and your wants, right? So moving on to the next slide. One significant way to begin teaching yourself positive spending and saving habits is to help distinguish between the two, right? Does anyone know the difference between a need and a want? Like, actually, like, do we actually top of mind have a definitive definition of that? Um, Anyone want to volunteer to answer that? It seems obvious. I mean, I think it's pretty cut dry. The answer is also on the slide. No one.
Oh, Beatrice, yes, question mark. Okay, Beatrice, do you want to explain your answer? Why are you unsure? Sorry for my dog.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it's on the slide, right? Our needs contribute to our survival and our wants are enjoyable, but sometimes unnecessary. Um, our needs are things that contribute to our present and future survival, like nutritional food, clean drinking water, um,
Food.
reliable transportation to and from work, and then of course, proper medical care to prevent or treat our illnesses. I think that's something that's really top of mind right now with the whole COVID situation going on and the uprise again. And then our wants are things that enhance the real or perceived quality of our lives, right? But they're things that we can live without. And some of these wants include like video games, Spotify Premium, cell phone apps or ringtones. But one thing to remember is that it's okay to want things. Attaining your wants can actually add to the overall quality of your life and make you feel like you've accomplished a goal. Like, for example, when I wear a brand new outfit, I feel more confident in my life and in my day. But sometimes a new outfit isn't what I need. Maybe I needed to buy myself a new set of pens for work because those things always come up missing. But one way to decide whether something is a need or a want when you're going through your list, right, your own personal list, is to ask yourself the question of, will I care about having this item 5 years from now? I think thinking about that, the long-term goal of the things that you purchase right now, especially in your college years, is really important to developing that relationship with money, because these habits will continue on into your adult life, which you spend most of your actual life in. And another tip that we have to help you kind of maintain that relationship with money and actually bring you towards that your goal of wants is by understanding and setting SMART goals. Sorry, next slide. And one thing to note is that we live in a time of hyper marketing where every other Instagram story is an ad, or all over Amazon is a Prime deal, or TikTok just really pushes you to purchase that shower head that you didn't need. And it's because these things are persuasive advertisements that capture your attention and really distract you at every turn. Sometimes you feel like we have no alternative but to listen to like, oh, I really do need this in my life. And a lot of the times it's because our peers influence us about the latest must-have items, right? Trying to be with the in crowd or like trying to fit into a certain aesthetic. So you need to buy these different things so that it fits to your overall personality aesthetic, right? But it's, and we acknowledge, right, as bankers and as just everyday people, that it's hard to filter out these messages that distract you from setting financial goals for yourself, especially at our like young age. But that's where goal setting comes in, right? Setting SMART goals helps you turn your visions into reality. And SMART is short for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So one thing that maybe we can get some volunteers to share their experiences with is think back to a time when you were saving money for something. Was it easy or difficult? Did anyone help you stay on track with your goal? And how did that work out for you? Or maybe you're saving for something now. I know I'm saving for tickets to EDC Las Vegas, which probably won't happen for me. Anyone? It could be anything. Maybe you're saving for, I don't know, what's coming up like in the community soon. I know there's a lot of like, there may be like artists that you want to listen to, like there's an album that they're going to release soon. I mean, I know Keanu is on top of buying those records all the time.
So yeah, that's a great question. So please, everyone, please use the chat, turn on your mic to answer them. But like Marge said, it was more of a fixation obsession period that she might be referring to at a time when I was just like buying vinyl records when I don't even have a record player. And yeah, but that's just a good example of sometimes we don't always make the best decisions, right? But what I've learned since then is to really start saving for things that are going to help me in my life when I'm, you know, outside of course, outside of my wants. But so Marge, I have a question. When you're saving for EDC, for example, is that like, what's your tactic to do that? And is that,
So
would you describe it as easy or difficult?
it's actually something that's really hard for me because it's something that's so future, like far away from like
Mhm.
when I initially decided that I wanted to go to EDC. And I save it, like I try to save at least $150 every paycheck, but sometimes, that depends on the income and when rent is due now or when the utility bills are due. So it's becoming more and more difficult to maintain. Oh, we have someone in the chat.
Oh, nice. So Youngjin says they skimmed out on lunch in high school to save for a
A laptop.
laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah. What that's do you bring up a good point? Some of us may resort to that, right? But we hope you were able to get your meal in for that day. But
But that's a good point. I mean,
yeah.
sacrifice comes with, saving saving up for things that you want, right?
Yeah.
Letitia says that they were saving up to pay off their dorm expenses, but it was difficult due to not having, it was
Enough.
have difficult to not having enough income. And that's something that I'll address in the next slide, I believe. How do we make sure that things are achievable and realistic, right? Part of that SMART goal setting. So here's a good example, right? I want to save $1,000 for non-tuition college expenses by the time I start college in 2 years, right? I will save 20% of all my money I earn or receive as a gift. And 1 year from now, I will check my savings progress. If necessary, I will adjust how I save to stay on track with achieving my goal. As you can see, we've marked here the things that are measurable, achievable, specific, time-bound, and realistic, right? But oftentimes, like Letitia has mentioned, um, it's hard to distinguish between what's achievable and realistic, right? Achievable relates to whether the goal can be met. In other words, if you don't have the means to save like for this example, if you don't have the means to save $1,000 over the next 2 years, the goal would not be achievable, right? And then realistic, on the other hand, relates to how much control you have over the outcome. If you're already juggling a full class schedule, including labs and non-paid internships and homework, finding time to work your job or work overtime at that job may not be realistic for you, right? Which will result in not having enough income, or which will equal in not having enough income. But one thing to always remind yourself of is that it's important to discuss the distractions that get in the way of achieving these goals, right? Talk to your family about how they stay focused when it comes to paying for certain things, like your mom and dad. I know my mom and dad are my financial mentors. Like I look up to them and I want to achieve their financial status. But when some tips are like carrying an image of the goal in your wallet, or posting a picture of the goal on your bulletin board at home, or even writing it down in your planner. Making this plan official by sharing it with others, like your friends, and including the amount to save in your spending plan is something that can also help you stay on track. And then checking your progress and celebrating those little milestones of, yay, I saved up to like $1,000, or hey, look, now I've saved, or now I've paid off my debt of $500. I'm gonna go to the beach for the day. I'm not gonna work overtime this week. Those are like little ways to celebrate those milestones, right? But like we've mentioned earlier, when it comes to saving or even just paying for your regular expenses, a lot of sacrifice is involved, like saying no to your friends occasionally, because there are ways you can refuse an invitation, but ways to also keep refuse the invitation by while keeping that friend, right? I think letting your friends know like, hey, I have to work overtime this week, I can't go out this weekend with you, is kind of a way for them to also acknowledge like, hey, I can't be flaunting the fact that I have all this free time in my friend's face, because obviously they have goals that they want to meet. Yeah.
That's a good point, Marge. And I think you also bring up the point about, with the whole conversation about needs and wants, it's like, we're not saying that, wanting things is bad, but it's really just about, setting a balance between the two, rewarding yourself when it's appropriate and, working hard for the money when, when you need to do it. But yeah, so really just take into account all those different SMART goals. It's not necessarily as you hit each letter, right? But just take those into consideration. But next, we are going to be talking about spending leaks. And because we all know that spending money is really easy. It's really easy to spend money, right? It's not as easy to save it because it could feel like it's always slipping through your fingers, right? And what a spending leak is essentially all those tiny little drips from our income, and we don't necessarily know where they're going to. And some examples here include things like fast food, right? When you go to Wendy's for a 4 for 4 or a biggie bag now, right? Those, it might not seem like a lot in the moment when you're buying, this is one 4 for 4, it's not going to hurt me. But if you do that for a whole week, that's already like, I don't
It's
know, $20,
Yeah.
$30. So I guess it's not that bad, but you also need to think about when you make these purchases, is this quality? Is this sustainable? So those are just some other things, but some other examples of spending leaks. And I think the biggest culprit are subscriptions. So subscriptions come in the forms of all the different streaming platforms that we're subscribed to, right? Because like, for example, Netflix, they're continuously raising their prices every year, and you might not even know it because you're on an auto bill payment. So that would count as a spending leak. That includes things like your Spotify Premium, your Disney Plus, and all those things, right? Even like when you're playing games, like I've been playing and I've been buying like online currencies, and it's very bad. But I'm learning to, avoid that because that could be,
On that note though, right,
yeah,
Keanu, um a lot of these businesses like Spotify, for example, or Hulu,
yeah,
they offer like student rates,
deals,
right? So I think
bundles, correct.
Spotify right now, and Spotify plus Hulu plus Showtime is like $4.99. And as I was a college student, I was using that. And obviously you get addicted to like using these streaming services. And at the time I could afford it. But now that I'm not in college anymore and that my 2 year or 4 year usage of that service is up, I have to pay the full $9. And $9 is a lot when you think about it when coming out of your income, when all you're doing is working now. And those are ways that these marketing strategists get you to spend money without even realizing it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you can also, if you notice on some of these subscriptions, that if you really look into it, sometimes paying, if you really have to have it, sometimes paying for a whole year is much less than paying on a month-to-month basis. So
Right.
just in case, you really have to take a good look at it. And then also sometimes, like, well, I know around the holidays, the subscription, sometimes they offer, like for a whole year, like you could save up to $30 or $40 more if you take advantage of it. And if you're really trying to save money, is that every time the holidays come around, look for those bargains that you can subscribe to, and just renew your subscription based on the cheaper rate.
Yeah, that's a great point, Margin Harold. And it's, yeah, really, take advantage of all the student discounts, all even I believe, part of UOG, there's even some, partners you as students are entitled to. So, really look into those things um,
Mhm.
that are offered to you at your convenience, really. So yeah, take advantage of that. But on that note, with the existing spending leaks that you do have, what we encourage you to do to, cancel it is to track all those spending leaks. And what you can do is keep in mind the 4 C's, which are to one, cancel. So immediately cancel any services that you don't use but are paying for. For example, a gym membership, right? Or an online newspaper subscription. So if you aren't using it, just cancel it unless you have a commitment or something. But second is to challenge. So essentially refers to challenging the fees that you may not notice, whether that be from your bank account or another service that you're subscribed to. Next is to cut or to essentially get a downgrade in the service. So for example, Marge was mentioning Spotify Premium earlier. Do you really need Spotify Premium? You might, right? But if you can bear with ads and like skipping, not being able to skip a song, and that's like, I don't know, $10 to add onto your monthly income, and that can make your week, if anything. And
Right.
finally, it's to commit. If you are paying for a service each month that you do use, like Harold said, make use of it and take advantage of all those annual deals and everything. Okay. So next, we are going to be talking about creating a spending plan. And this is a very, very general plan when it comes to creating a spending plan, okay? But it's essentially a 4-step process that's going to help you, identify your income and how you can break that down. And this is I know it seems very straightforward here, but we do actually have an activity that we do with some of our other students where we put them into a simulation and they put this spending plan into action by making like real life decisions. But essentially, step one is to identify the income sources that you can count on every month. So like Letitia, right? Identifying your income. Sometimes it may not be enough, but there may be other avenues that you may be missing, right? So for example, you have your job earnings, you might have, I don't know, babysitting money, or you might
I
have
think
a kind of side gig.
grants.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Marge.
I think UOG right now, they've been giving out grants during COVID to
Mm-hmm.
help with financial relief, and it's like a $737
Yeah.
check at the end of the semester. Call financial aid and see when they're releasing that. See how that can help, add to that monthly income. And then help also, again, like Kiana was going to mention, manage your monthly expenses.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So step two is to add all of those monthly expenses up from whatever channel that may be coming from. And finally, step three is to subtract those expenses from your income. So note down all your spending leaks, all your bills, your utility bills, your college textbooks, or your meal money for that pay period. And finally, it's to change the habits that are not necessarily the best. The change habits as necessary, including cutting things that may not make sense for you anymore, and maybe even increasing your income, right? If you do have the ability, the resources, the time to garner more income, take advantage of it and seek those opportunities if you feel you can handle it. And there, I think Jasmine shared more info on these $700 that you will all be receiving. Sorry, Marge, you missed.
Okay, I received it before.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Next, we are going to be talking about establishing a reserve fund or an emergency fund. So, a reserve fund, you could think of it, this is a fancy word for it, but it's essentially a piggy bank, right? That's essentially what a reserve fund is. And what you do in a reserve fund is each month or whatever, how often you get paid, whether that's bi-weekly or monthly, or whether that's on a stipend basis, right? You can save a little each time you get paid toward a reserve fund. And your reserve fund can be used for any purpose that you deem necessary. And it can be used for things like emergencies, whether that's making a car repair, saving up for a computer so you don't need to, skip out on lunch, or maybe just something that you're saving for. So like right now, um, I have this thing and I've been using this. There's money inside here. And I've been using this little jar to save money. What I do is every paycheck, I put $100 into it and I don't touch it most of the times. And what I'm saving for is essentially um, room improvement, right? I want to like have like a nice desk set up with like a little monitorizer and like a keyboard and stuff. So that's what I'm saving for at this moment. It might change, but at least I know that when that time does come and I'm ready to spend it, it's not going to be hurting my actual income in like one big punch, right? It's just, it won't feel like anything really. And a reserve fund can be anything. It can be something like a jar, or it can even be a savings account in a financial institution, right? And really the important part here is that you make it a habit when you incorporate it into your lifestyle, right? So all these usually conscious choices, right? Because paying for things should be a conscious choice, but saving, it should ultimately become an unconscious choice where it's just part of your daily routine. And you look forward to budgeting and you look forward to saving because you have a smart goal in mind, right? Okay. Next, saving money for education expenses. Marge, do you have anything to share with this one?
Sure, I could do this slide. So, when we're talking about our future, we want to kind of give you a glimpse of what comes after school, right? A lot of the times we don't think about what's the next step after graduating college. I mean, I knew that I had the bank as my security blanket, but what's after that, right? Um, earning your college degree often is a family value as well as an individual goal, but paying for the education is challenging for many families, as some of you may have shared already. There are a lot of opportunities out there for you to garner free grant aid. And I know this because when I was a student, I was always on UOG's website, UOG's financial aid website, and calling the office to see what kind of free money is out there for us. I just called them before we hopped onto this meeting. And in a few weeks, they're releasing I think it's a conditional grant based on financial need that you can apply for. And you can garner up to $2,000 of free money from the government. And I think you should all capitalize on that. Also, there's FAFSA. I know Harold is familiar with the FAFSA application process. There are college savings plans that can be established at any financial institution, because they do have investment services departments. I know at the bank, ours is Bank Guam Investment Services, I believe.
Yeah.
And Harold, if you can get their contact and maybe share it in the chat, if any of you are interested in how to invest your money, whether that be in your future or in stocks or in retirement, which is something that we need to be thinking about. Even though we are young, we need to be developing and building that retirement pot already. But the need to save for college, of course, is obvious. And as we know, the college costs continue to rise. I know, thankfully, UOG's, I think their tuition rises on pause right now, or something to that effect, or increments of something. And we are lucky for that. But that's not the case, for master's and graduate schools if you're looking to pursue higher avenues of education. Keanu, did you want to
Yeah.
add?
Yeah, so I think even with the topic of education expenses, that really extends beyond your tuition, right? It really takes into account every single thing that you spend on as a college student. So for example, some of you may be living off in the dorms. I've never got to experience, I think Marge, you've experienced that when you were going to college. But that includes things like your dorms, your transportation, your food. And I think that was the biggest culprit for me, especially at UOG, right?
Yes.
It's all those food trucks and it's it's all of that, right?
It's the
So
drive on the way to school, passing all the
exactly.
fast food restaurants and thinking, oh shoots, I have 15 minutes left, or I still have 15 minutes. I can go to Wendy's real quick and get me a 4 for $4, rather than going to Payless and buying a package of ground beef, which is $8 and will provide me 4 meals kind of thing.
Exactly. So it's all of those little college related expenses. And that's why we really appreciate this entire college affordability series, right? Because it really just shows that college can be affordable no matter how much you can spend, right? Because college can be expensive if you choose to view it that way, or if you choose to, or if you're not aware of these resources that are available to you, right? And that's why we're grateful for, being able to be part of this series. But next, we are going to be talking about earning money through jobs and careers. So, at some point in your college career, you may already be in this stage, but you are going to be very eager to earn money, right? And that's to really maximize your income. And that can take so many different forms, especially when you're in college. There are so many opportunities, some opportunities that I'm still pursuing from when I was a college student up to now, like this job, right? I started off as an intern at the bank with a paid internship, and I was able to build a career at the bank. And you can also say that for a lot of the different opportunities that are available, no matter what major you're in. If you have an internship class, for example, there may be some opportunities for paid internships. But beyond that, I had a lot of friends who took advantage of work study programs at the university. And there are also internship opportunities and scholarship opportunities that you can get paid for. So for example, at the bank, we recently launched our life scholarship, which grants students like you, if you get accepted, $2,500 that can be used towards your tuition, right? And we are going to be releasing details on that. And if you are interested, you can reach out to us on email and we can send you a packet, or you can visit our website in the coming days. But it's internships like these where you're able to, find opportunities to increase your income. And especially at this stage in your life when you're in college, a lot of employers are looking for people like you because they want a fresh set of eyes bringing new and innovative ideas to the table. And if you don't know where to start, there are so many opportunities um, in your college career, right? So for example, I have many like side gigs that I came into contact with from my professors actually. Once I was still a student, they um, networked me with like different people in the university, whether it's like website design or photography services. Really talk with your teachers, and they're really your greatest resource at the school when it comes to these kinds of things, because they are aware of what you're learning and the skills that you have to offer. Harold or Marge, you have anything to add to this about earning money through jobs and careers while in college?
Um, well, if you have a hobby, sometimes your hobby can be turned into a earning possibility. When I was in college, well, actually, when I was in high school, I was photography, um, I was into photography, and I'm even up to now. I do little side gigs, and that helps with the income. So, I mean, if you have a green thumb, you could start a little small a plant business. Selling plants just to help with just to help again to get extra cash.
Right,
That's
it's
a
all
good
about
idea.
side hustles. I know a lot of us have like Instagram shops these days, or baking, like little baking gigs, and those things kind of help throughout college as well.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for that. So yeah, it's really just, maximizing what you can do in whatever resources you may have. But that really does cover our financial empowerment workshop for today. We hope you were able to learn, at least a little bit of something. And if you weren't able to, remember the exact details of the presentation, we hope you're able to in the future at least make more conscious and active choices in all the money decisions you make. Yep, and those are essentially all the topics that we covered today. But before we close today's session, does anyone have any questions? We'll be more than happy to answer them.
We also offer more in-depth one-on-one financial empowerment sessions where we can go over your, I guess, personal expenses and how we can help you maximize that income that you're making. Or if you are looking to make an income, we do have job opportunities open. Just watch us on, again, our social media channels and our website for those opportunities to arise. Any questions? Any topic specific questions, like questions about loans? If we can't answer it in this session, then we will definitely email you an answer and an advisor to talk to. Oh, while we wait for those to come in, maybe I'll do a quick plug again of our Bank of Guam 2022 Life Scholarship. It's a financial award of $2,500 or $2,500, $2,500. And the applicant may qualify for a paid internship with flex hours based on the availability. Our past scholars from our first year both attended UOG, and it is only afforded to UOG students who are continuing their career. Thank you for having us today. I hope you, like Kiana mentioned, just to reiterate, I hope you learned a bit of something from our broad range of topics that we, again, will be more than happy to delve into if you would like.
Guys, so we want to thank you again for being here and staying here. Really appreciate it. We learned a lot from Bank of Guam today. I'm excited. We had a diverse perspective. I'm so glad that we got alumni on here because I think they offered a lot of real world advice that we could definitely take home. What did we learn? We learned about, I love that Miss Marge directed us to hyper marketing. Now we know, you don't know what you don't know. And now she's alerted us to it. So we'll be a little bit more discerning on TikTok. Mr. Harold said to be vigilant about the subscriptions. Mr. Keanu told us to cut, Apple Music. I was paying $9.99 a month for it. That I did the math, it's $119. So all of those things, very good information. If any of you guys that are still here think you might know someone who could benefit from this information, they're just not here. I know we're all very busy. This is going to be recorded. The recording will be sent to all registrants in an email, plus all of the past webinars from last week. And so feel free to send those to anyone you know who might need to hear some of this information. We do have a survey. I'm going to put a link to the survey in the chat now, and I would very much appreciate it if you guys could fill that out, send us your thoughts. It'll only help us. Once again, I wanted to thank you guys so much for your time. We'll leave this presentation. We'll think about, will we need certain things in 5 years? Personally, I think you're going to need this presentation. You want to remember that for the next 5 years. So check out the recording. Check out Bank of Guam. They gave their email addresses and of course their social media. Be sure to look at their social media for details about the Life Scholarship, which very helpful information again. Thank you again, guys. That's it for us. That's the webinar. We want to thank everyone for their time. Appreciate it.
To just Marcy, stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.